All right, welcome North Yarmouth residents to this explainer breaking down the August 11th Planning Board meeting. Look, if you're a local voter who cares about how our town takes shape, you know these meetings can run pretty long. So today, we're taking nearly 2 solid hours of civic procedure and boiling it down into a crisp, structured summary of the absolute key votes and discussions that are actually going to impact your neighborhood. Here's a quick look at our agenda for this explainer. First, board changes and key votes. Second, the York Ridge remand. Third, Phase 1 plan modifications. Fourth, the Lot 1 buffer. And finally, next steps for York Ridge. Let's get right to it. Section 1, board changes and key votes. So things kicked off by officially welcoming your brand new town manager, Britt Barton. The board also had to bid a fond farewell to Sadie. It's a familiar story, really. The heavy demands of her daytime job just made balancing those board duties a bit too tough. And because of that departure, the board is actually currently down 2 people. So hey, if you've ever wanted to get involved in local government, they are actively looking for new citizen candidates to step up to the plate. To get things fully functional for the evening, they took some immediate administrative actions. Chris Byers was unanimously elected as chair, and Sandy Peabody was unanimously elected as secretary. They also quickly and unanimously approved the minutes from their previous June 23rd meeting. Section 2, the York Ridge remand. Okay, the bulk of this meeting was really dedicated to untangling a pretty complicated issue with the York Ridge development. The Zoning Board of Appeals remanded, which essentially just means they sent back, Phase 2 of the York Ridge project to the Planning Board. They did this specifically to double-check for any Phase 1 code violations under what's called Standard 5.8a. So basically, Phase 2 is totally paused until the developer can definitively prove that every single thing they built in Phase 1 is fully compliant with the town's ordinances. Section 3, Phase 1 Plan Modifications. You know how it is. When pristine blueprints meet the reality of dirt and shovels, things inevitably have to shift. Project manager Matt McGovern outlined 4 specific field modifications that were made during Phase 1 construction. Now, the developer maintains these were just de minimis, meaning very minor changes, and that they were approved by the town's code enforcement officer at the time. As you can see, these were practical, on-the-fly adjustments to drainage, sidewalks, culverts, and landscaping. A huge point of discussion here was the tree planting. The officially approved town plan originally clustered 47 trees pretty tightly together, about 8 to 10 feet apart. But the developer actually planted over 50 trees and spread them 12 to 15 feet apart instead. Why? Well, they argued that planting them as tightly as the original design called for would have forced those trees to compete for resources, basically risking disease and causing a bunch of them to die off within 5 years. And regarding that eliminated culvert we mentioned, this is a classic clash between digital data and physical reality. The developer explained that the original engineering blueprints relied on topographical data pulled straight from main.gov. While that GIS data is absolutely great for a high-level overview, it just didn't perfectly match the reality of the ground survey once the crews showed up to dig. The natural pitch of the land meant a planned culvert at Station 11 was entirely unnecessary. Section 4, the Lot 1 buffer. This brings us to what was, hands down, the most heavily debated topic of the night. Why is a designated meadow buffer on Lot 1, specifically 13 York Ridge Drive, experiencing significant water ponding? The board really had to dig in to figure out whether this standing water actually constitutes a developer violation under that standard 5.8a we talked about earlier. The board reviewed some evidence from an engineering firm, and it turns out there's kind of a dual reality at play here. First, there's just the biological reality of living in Maine, right? When the ground freezes completely solid in the winter, it simply can't absorb water runoff, so you get natural surface ponding. But there's also a human reality. Evidence suggests the homeowner is actively mowing this meadow buffer, and that actually violates a restriction in their deed because mowing stops the tall, deep-rooted vegetation from doing its vital job of slowing down and filtering all that stormwater. Section 5, next steps for York Ridge. So, how do we fix it? To proactively resolve this standing water, the developer outlined exact steps to create an underground infiltration basin. By digging down 4 to 5 feet, getting right below that frost line, filling it with stone, and adding a concrete intake, they're essentially designing a system to suck in and absorb excess water, even during those harsh months when the topsoil is completely iced over. But listen, the planning board isn't just taking the developer's word for it. Before making any final determinations or allowing Phase 2 to finally proceed, the Board has tasked town engineer Mandy Oliver to heavily review these new basin designs. They need absolute certainty that fixing the water issue on Lot 1 isn't going to accidentally flood a neighbor's property right down the hill. So, as a North Yarmouth voter watching this entire process unfold, do you feel these proposed solutions strike the right balance of accountability and progress for your neighborhood's future?